The coffee steamed in a thin, gray ribbon, and the scent carried a faint metallic edge. Elena Harper didn't reach for the mug. Across the glossy oak table, Daniel Harper angled a smile that stopped short of his eyes. "Special blend," he said softly. "Brewed just for you." Victoria's dining room held its breath. China gleamed under the Nashville morning that poured through tall windows. Elena's chair creaked as she shifted. Daniel lifted his own cup, watching her over the rim. His cufflinks flashed, quick and cold. Victoria, poised at the head of the table, stirred her untouched coffee with a measured wrist. Clink, clink, clink. "Family brunch suits you too," she said, voice light, eyes sharp. "You've both been so busy." Elena brought the mug closer, stopping just short of her lips. Steam kissed her cheek, then slid away. Daniel leaned in, elbows off the linen, posture almost eager. "Go on," he urged, playful on the surface, pressure underneath. Victoria's spoon paused mid-air. A smirk tugged, then flattened. She nudged a sugar bowl toward Elena with a graceful push. Inside, the clock on the mantel counted time with patient taps. Elena set the mug down, a muted click. Her fingers stayed on the handle, light as a breath. "New routine?" Victoria asked. "Daniel's been testing methods all week. Pour-over, immersion, dark roasts." Daniel chuckled. "Research. Anniversary's coming." He shared a quick look with Victoria. A glint passed between them. Fast, quiet, precise. Elena's gaze followed the glint, then returned to the cup. China chimed somewhere behind her. A chair leg scuffed. Someone hushed a child. Daniel cleared his throat. "The beans are rare," he said. "Victoria helped me source them." Victoria's fingers drummed once on porcelain, then withdrew. "Quality deserves company," she replied. Light shifted across the table. Steam thinned. The metallic note lingered. Elena lifted the mug again. 1/2 inch, 1 inch. The rim hovered. Daniel's smile brightened by effort alone. Victoria's eyes didn't blink. The clock tapped on. Elena angled the cup as though to sip. Then she turned, glancing at her phone as if it had buzzed. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Work call." The mug settled back to its saucer. In the hallway, voices slowed, curious and strained. The air tasted like pennies, waiting. And the room, still holding its breath, waited to see who would inhale first. Elena Harper had grown used to whispers that stopped the moment she entered a room. She had grown used to the way Daniel's phone lit up late at night, screen tilted away, fingers sliding quick across glass. But the changes weren't subtle anymore. 3 weeks earlier, her colleagues leaned in after a client meeting. "You all right, Elena?" one asked. "You looked pale." "Almost faint." She brushed it off with a smile, though her pulse still raced from the cramps she had fought through at the conference table. At Victoria's dinners, flavors skewed off-center. Dishes wore a sharper tang, a bitter backnote that didn't match the recipe card. A spoon rang against porcelain in timed taps. Clink, clink, clink. Twice, a splash of red wine met Elena's blouse before she left for presentations. Apologies fluttered. Napkins dabbed. The stains lingered. 2 months earlier came the worst. Breakfast at Victoria's. Later, the emergency department's pale lights, an IV, and doctors murmuring about unidentified compounds. Daniel stood by her bed with a soothing hand and a practiced answer. "Expired medication, probably. She's been under stress." Outside the house, small signals multiplied. Her assistant noted missed pitches that weren't like her. A neighbor mentioned Daniel stopping by Victoria's to plan something sweet, and laughed too long. A friend at yoga squeezed Elena's hand and said nothing, which said enough. Elena did not confront. She observed. She began to map the timing. Each wave of illness rose within a day of food or drink served by Victoria. Each wave arrived on the eve of something career-defining, a pitch, a board preview, a contract handoff. Coincidence stacked like plates. At night, Daniel angled his phone away. Notifications arrived under vague labels. his calendar filled with errands that ran through Victoria's side of town. He grew generous in specific ways. Coffee delivered to Elena's desk, herbal teas offered with a smile. "You need to rest," spoken like concern, worn like control. Others saw what politeness hid. "You're skinnier," a client remarked, hesitant. "Is everything okay?" A barista, used to Elena's steady order, said she had not seen Elena alone lately. Always with Daniel, always in a rush, always with matching to-go cups. The cups became their own kind of evidence. Elena wrote nothing on her face. She wore calm like a blazer. Yet the camera could have zoomed close and found the tells. A slower blink, a hand that hovered above a glass before choosing water instead, the way she set utensils down to avoid the taste she no longer trusted. One afternoon, she stood in her kitchen and watched the sink fill. The sound of water covered the click of her spare phone recording a voicemail she played again. Victoria's breezy laugh, Daniel in the background, two voices blending into one plan she couldn't yet quote but could feel between syllables. In the days that followed, Elena logged details in a planner no one else touched. Dates, menus, symptoms, asterisks by the meetings she almost missed. She stapled hospital wristbands to a page and underlined a single phrase: "Not random." The city kept moving. Traffic stitched the neighborhoods together. Offices blinked each morning. In one corner of Nashville, a woman began to believe her body was telling the truth her family would not name. And so the next brunch invitation arrived with polished friendliness and a time that suited everyone. Elena accepted, smiled, and made space in her bag for a pen, a tiny recorder, and the kind of resolve that stays very quiet until it doesn't. She was ready to test what her suspicion already knew. Elena cleared space on the kitchen island and set a spiral notebook beside a zippered pouch. At the top of the first page, she wrote the goal: prove a deliberate pattern, stay safe, preserve chain of evidence, times, locations, who cooked, what was served, symptoms, duration. She underlined 3 rules: document, duplicate, secure. She photographed hospital wristbands and taped them in. Receipts, appointment cards, discharge summaries, flattened against paper. Each page bore a neat label in blue ink, W01 through W08, plus a note about taste, color, or smell. The metallic hint earned a small triangle, easy to scan later. She created folders on a private cloud with 2-factor authentication. Screenshots of texts went there first, followed by call logs and calendar overlaps. She forwarded the files to a hidden email, then exported a master index. Each file name began with a sortable stamp. A second phone emerged from the pouch, charged and silent. She enabled a one-tap recorder and tested the mic from inside her blazer pocket. She rehearsed naming files by room and time. Food safety came next. Elena bought clear jars with locking lids and tiny labels. When a drink or dish arrived from Victoria, she decanted a teaspoon into a jar before touching the rest. Dates and times went on the label. Jars slid into the back of the refrigerator inside an opaque bin. At her physician's office, she requested baseline labs and a toxicology screen. "I'm tracking exposures," she said simply. The nurse printed copies and uploaded results to the portal. Elena took duplicates, initialed the corners, and slipped them into plastic sleeves. She scheduled a consult with a discreet attorney downtown. They reviewed recording laws, storage protocol, and chain of custody language. "Keep an unaltered original and a working copy," the attorney said. "Log who handles what and when." Elena left with a timeline template and a card of emergency contacts. She rehearsed for brunch like a stage manager. Coat on the chair behind her. Purse to the right, zipper facing in. Phone in the outer pocket, brightness low, recorder primed. A pause point to check messages. A natural reason to stand. The swap had choreography. Approach with a napkin. Bump the place setting. Apologize. Right hand steadying, left hand gathering, cups crossing for half a second. Return items to the correct sides, except the mugs. Contingencies lined the margin. If someone followed, step to the study doorway and leave it ajar. If a reaction began, dial, speak clearly, confirm address, keep the line open. If denial rose, play the file and say, "This is being preserved." Her bag held a compact kit: ID, insurance card, thumb drive, charger, notebook, pen, mints, tissues. Resolve fit there too, quiet and heavy. When the brunch invitation arrived, she accepted with an easy, calm yes. She backed up the notebook, zipped the pouch, and slid the second phone into place. Then she waited for the moment the plan would stop being theory and start being evidence. The dining room pressed inward like a tightening fist, sunlight sliced by sheer curtains, the mantel clock ticking with surgical patience. Elena placed her purse to the right, zipper turned inward, phone awake in its silent recorder. Daniel's smile sat like a mask. Victoria's spoon kept time, clink by measured clink. 2 porcelain mugs breathed thin steam. The study doorway stood open just enough to see the table. Napkins fanned like petals, knives and forks aligned neatly. A metallic tang sat in the air, stubborn and cold. Daniel gestured to the mug nearest her, the one with the faint gray sheen at the rim. "Special," he said. "Just for you." Victoria buttered the space with a smooth voice. "He's been practicing all week," she added, eyes skimming Elena's mouth, then the mug, then back. Elena rose slightly, as if to reach for sugar, then paused, hand hovering, gaze tipping toward her phone. A discreet buzz that no one heard. "Work," she murmured. "Give me 1 second." Daniel nudged the sugar bowl. Victoria didn't blink. She moved with unremarkable grace, the kind that never invites attention. A tissue appeared in her right hand. Her left steadied the table as she half-turned, foot catching the chair leg. A soft stumble, a hissed breath, a flutter of napkins. "I'm so sorry," she said, the sorry hosts forgive by reflex. Victoria's chin lifted, polished and faintly annoyed. Daniel half rose, hands out to help yet not quite touching. "It's fine," he said, eyes fixed on the mugs. Elena's right hand collected her own cup. Her left palmed Victoria's. The crossing lived inside a heartbeat, right over left, a pivot disguised as tidying, tissue dabbing at an invisible spill. The cups traded places, as if they had always belonged where they landed. Elena aligned the saucers with the plates, set the spoons parallel, and breathed. The choreography ended the way good sleight of hand ends, with stillness. She stepped toward the study, heels quiet, the phone in her purse catching sound and a sliver of image through the opening door. From the shadowed margin, she watched the bright oval of the table, the arc of Victoria's face, the curve of a wrist closing on a handle. Steam thinned, air settled. Victoria drank. 1 sip, cautious. Another, deliberate. A beat later, her fingers trembled, the spoon rattled in the saucer. Color withdrew from her cheeks as if someone had called it away by name. She swallowed, set the mug down too firmly, swallowed again. Daniel's chair scraped hard. "You okay?" His voice pitched upward, unmasked. Victoria blinked fast, pressed 2 fingertips to her throat, then to her temple. Breath shortened, shallow, metronomic. The room tilted toward her. Sweat purled, Daniel reached and missed. "You said—" Victoria's words came thin and angry. "Just enough to keep her home before the board." Daniel's mouth opened, then shut, panic stripping polish from his face. "That wasn't your cup," he whispered, and the whisper carried like a shout. "Presentation," she spat, jaw tight. "Contract." Her hand caught the tablecloth, knuckles blanching. "You promised untraceable." Elena pressed the emergency icon and spoke clearly. "Nashville, 1542 Maple Grove Drive. Adult female, tremors, pallor, shortness of breath after ingesting coffee." The dispatcher's questions arrived calm as water. Elena answered without hurry, eyes on the doorway, line open, recording intact. "Yes, conscious. Tremors increasing. No known allergies disclosed. Send paramedics." She lowered the purse slightly to widen the camera's angle. "This call is recorded," she added. A chair toppled. A spoon bounced, ringing once, twice, then still. "It wasn't meant for—" Daniel's sentence crashed into silence. Victoria's breath rasped. The mug sat askew, a brown crescent clinging to porcelain. Someone at the far end of the table said, "Oh my God." A spoon lay bright on the floor. Victoria's breath came short and shallow. Daniel hovered, hands flexing at his sides. Elena stayed with the dispatcher, clear-voiced, eyes on the doorway. Adult female. Tremors. Conscious. A neighbor peeked in and whispered a warning to no one. The clock kept ticking. The air tasted like worry. Paramedics swept the room with practiced calm. Questions, vitals, a stretcher. Victoria tried to speak and bit the words back. Her jaw trembled. Daniel reached again, then flinched when the medic asked what had been in the coffee. "Beans," he said. "Just beans." Elena repeated the timeline. The call stayed open until the doors closed. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and rain. In the corridor outside triage, families formed small clusters. Daniel's mother arrived fast, pearls askew. "What happened?" she demanded. "What did you do?" Elena kept her posture straight. "I called for help," she said. "The physicians will explain." Victoria's cousin arrived next, breathless and sharp. "She wouldn't touch her own coffee unless—" He stopped when he saw Daniel lower his gaze. Phone screens lit up. A cousin texted a cousin. An aunt sent a prayer hands emoji. Messages ricocheted. Rumors, fragments. A memo clipped from dining room. Elena ignored the chatter and sent her files to counsel. She logged time and location in her planner and signed the printout from admissions. Friends from the firm appeared. "We thought you were homesick," someone said. The creative director tapped a calendar. "She was fine at 9, he murmured. Then gone by 10. A junior account manager connected the dots in a whisper. "Every time a major deck lands, something goes wrong." The sentence hung between them like a string pulled too tight. Online, the story moved faster than Gurney's. A neighborhood group posted about sirens. A vague status appeared. "Prayers for a family brunch gone wrong." Comments sprouted. Elena captured screenshots and archived them. She made no public statement. "Let the record speak." A friend texted. Elena agreed. Daniel's mother tried again. "This can be solved quietly." The words sounded rehearsed. Elena looked at the closed door, the red light above it. A physician stepped out with a folder. "Toxicology shows concerning compounds," she said. "An investigator is on the way." Elena checked the minute, saved a copy, and waited for the questions to begin. The hallway smelled of antiseptic and wet concrete. Fluorescent panels hummed. Victoria lay pale on a gurney, an IV threading from her elbow. Daniel paced, rubbing his ring. Elena stood near the nurse's station, posture steady, purse at her shoulder. A physician in navy scrubs approached. "Doctor." "Patel," she said, offering a brisk nod. "We've stabilized her, but toxicology screens are flagging something we don't normally see after coffee." An investigator arrived with a body camera. "Detective Valdez," he said. He lifted a sealed bag containing 2 porcelain mugs, each tagged and timed. "We'll need your phones and the remaining grounds from the machine." Daniel's jaw flexed. "That's absurd," he said, the sentence trembling at the end. Valdez angled the camera toward the bag. "Chain of custody starts now," he stated, reading the time aloud. Elena unclipped her case and handed over a small drive. "Video and audio from the dining room," she said. "Recorded at the same time as the call." A nurse rolled the gurney toward toxicology. Victoria's fingers twitched against the blanket. She glanced at Elena, then looked away. Outside triage, families gathered in small clusters, speaking in whispers. Daniel's mother tried a smile that never formed. "This can be handled discreetly," she murmured. Dr. Patel lifted a palm. "Medical findings are what they are. Please give us room to work." Valdez set a paper evidence log on a wheeled cart. "Elena Harper," he said. "You'll walk me through the timeline." Elena described the table, the mugs, the stumble, the call, the words she heard. Her voice stayed low. Daniel stepped closer. "It wasn't supposed to," he began, then bit down. Valdez looked up. "Supposed to what?" Daniel swallowed. "Nothing," he said. "Vitamins. I added vitamins. She's been tired. Dr. Patel's eyes narrowed. Vitamins do not produce cholinergic symptoms, she said. Her pupils, pulse, and sweat response do not match that story. From inside, a monitor alarmed, then quieted. Victoria coughed. Elena did not move. Valdez flipped to a fresh page. What's the motive? He asked. A cousin muttered. The board presentation, and then flushed. Valdez wrote the words without comment. He requested records from previous hospital visits, told security to preserve the dining trash, and photographed the coffee machine from 3 angles. By afternoon, a judge authorized a limited search. Officers collected a grinder, sealed tins, a notebook with columns of dates and effects. Labels read taste, nausea, presentations. Valdez read the entries and stopped on one line. Dose stronger before client deck. Evening settled, and they moved to court. A small hearing room, wood lacquered to a quiet shine. A camera from the local station watched through the open door. The prosecutor arranged binders in clean stacks. Defense counsel Rains leaned close to Daniel. Elena sat in the first row, still as a photograph. She nodded to Dr. Patel, to Valdez, to no one else. When the judge entered, everyone rose, then sat. Opening statements were brief. The prosecutor drew a line through dates, symptoms, motive, and means. Rains called it a misunderstanding. Bad coffee, bad timing, he said, palms up. He promised explanations. Dr. Patel testified first. Charts appeared on a screen, vitals, timestamps, a curve tracing tremors to ingestion. She explained receptor effects without metaphor. Not caffeine, she said. Not vitamins. A forensic analyst stepped forward with a chromatogram. Spikes rose and fell like a city skyline. He named compounds rare outside controlled facilities. He pointed to residue swabbed from a mug lip and matched it to Victoria's blood panel. Correlation in time and substance, he said. Rains tried to bend the light. He suggested the mugs were contaminated. Valdez, on the stand, recited the chain in patient detail. Bag, tag, time, witness, seal, transfer. Elena took the stand last. She faced the judge, not Daniel. She described actions, not feelings, the napkin, the stumble, the call, the words she heard. Rains pressed for speculation. She gave him none. Then the notebook entered evidence. Pages projected large, neat as ledger sheets. Entries paired doses with outcomes and circled dates before major meetings. On the 3rd page, the handwriting slanted. Untraceable, it read, underlined twice. Daniel's composure thinned. Rains put a hand on his sleeve. Victoria watched from the back, hospital bracelet bright against her wrist. She did not speak. The judge leaned forward. Based on the proffer, the exhibits, and testimony, she said, the court finds probable cause. She ordered Daniel remanded without contact. Victoria received conditional release with surrender of passport. Further testing and search warrants would follow. Outside, flashes popped like brief lightning. Reporters called her name. She kept walking forward. Elena thanked the nurse who fetched her water. Then she stepped into the corridor, spine straight, footsteps unhurried, and did not look back. Rain glazed the courthouse steps the next morning. Daniel's name scrolled under a mugshot on the local station. Remand status, no contact. Hearing date pending. In a fluorescent intake room, property bags clicked shut. A plastic bracelet snugged his wrist. An officer slid a tray forward, the fork scraped tin. At his company, HR revoked his badge at 9:12 a.m. Security boxed a framed certificate, a novelty mug, a dying plant. By noon, his email auto-replied with policy text and nothing else. Victoria moved through her condo like a guest. The hospital bracelet flashed when she reached for a glass. Pharmacy labels lined the counter beside a calendar of follow-ups. Her agency's receptionist forwarded 3 cancellations in 20 minutes. Group chats grayed out. A statement posted to her profile, 2 paragraphs, careful and cool, disabled comments within the hour. Neighbors passed headlines in doorways. From rivalry to crime, coffee, contracts, and control. A local podcast stitched a timeline from sirens, court minutes, and public filings. No names were printed in the HOA newsletter, only a line about cooperation with authorities. Daniel's mother brought a sweater to the visitor window. She pressed it to the glass, then to her chest. Later, a cousin texted Elena a simple apology and attached a screenshot. The notebook photo on the evening news, the words, "Dose stronger," framed in red. Credit held its breath and then collapsed. A card declined at a vending machine. Certified letters arrived. Preserve records, produce devices, prepare for discovery. A red-stamped final notice curled on a kitchen counter. Victoria hadn't cleaned. A tow truck took Daniel's car from the office lot. The guard wrote the time on a clipboard. The montage ran on. A broker canceled a showing. An industry panel removed Victoria's headshot from its flyer. A recruiter asked politely for updated references, and then did not call again. At night, the condo lights stayed on too late. The jail lights never turned off. In the silence that follows public noise, consequences sorted themselves. The circle tightened, then broke. Daniel stared at a cinder block seam as footsteps passed and passed again. Victoria stared at a calendar with gaps where meetings should be. On a corkboard outside a downtown auditorium, a new poster went up. Nashville Business Leaders Summit. Keynote, Elena Harper. Date, time, room. An arrow pointed right. And the hallway, bright and clean, waited. For the next morning, quietly. Morning cracked clean over downtown Nashville. The poster from the corridor now stood beside a ballroom door. Nashville Business Leaders Summit. Keynote, Elena Harper. Backstage, a tech clipped a mic to her collar. Elena aligned the first slide on a small monitor. She rolled her shoulders once, breathed in for 4 counts, breathed out for 4 more. Her reflection in a black screen looked composed and real. Inboxes had turned from sympathy to logistics. Contracts reactivated. New ones arrived with tidy subject lines. She rebuilt a compact project team, strategist, analyst, producer, calendars aligned, milestones pinned. In a glass meeting room the day before, she shook hands with a client who had waited. Clear scopes, weekly check-ins, and measurable lift, she said. They nodded. The statement of work clicked into a shared folder. A Gantt chart spread across a display like a quiet city map. At the office, her mug bore a screw-top lid. Labels marked personal items. A cooler sat beside her desk for days she chose to bring food. She kept medical follow-ups on a recurring Tuesday, results archived to her secure vault. The lawyer stayed point of contact. Afternoons sometimes belonged to mentorship. 5 chairs, 1 whiteboard, an hour of practical steps. Documentation is neutral, Elena told the group. Neutral wins. She handed out a thin packet. Templates, checklists, sample logs. During one session, she adjusted a mentee's lapel mic, then stepped back with a small nod. Media interest shifted lanes. A profile ran with a plain portrait on gray. The headline read, "How one manager built safety into process. No gossip, just procedure, and now the ballroom." A stagehand raised 2 fingers, then 1. Elena walked out to a wash of soft light. Applause rose, quick and warm. She smiled once, brief, then steadied. The opening slide glowed. Preparation is protection. "Good morning," she said. "We'll talk about systems that hold under pressure. Risk registers, communication trees, and data you can trust." She spoke from diagrams, not wounds. From procedures, not pain. The room leaned forward, pens ready. When it ended, she thanked the audience and left the stage the way she came. Measured steps, shoulders relaxed. Outside, a new week waited on her phone. Flight confirmation, agenda blocks, a photograph of sunrise through office glass, lines of light crossing the river and walking into the day. Morning settled into a steady rhythm. Elena unlocked the glass door of a new office suite and set her bag on a desk. Calendar blocks lined her screen in calm rows. A bouquet waited with a card that simply read, "Thank you for your clarity." She answered 3 client emails, approved a timeline, and booked a flight for Tuesday. At noon, she jogged along the river, breath even, shoes beating a reassuring count. In the same city, Daniel woke to the hum of a fridge in a rented room. A notice slid under his door, payment due, final. He dialed numbers that did not pick up. An application portal looped him back to the beginning. His card failed at the corner store. The cashier looked away. Across town, Victoria studied a calendar dotted with follow-ups she dreaded. Her agency removed her headshot from a showcase page. She drafted a post about starting over, then closed comments before posting at all. At reception, she kept her eyes on the pen she signed with. Evening returned to Elena's window as the skyline softened. She closed her laptop, turned off the light, and paused at the door. Beyond the glass, the street glowed.